Very warm welcome to everybody. Thank you all for attending, and a special warm welcome to our guest speaker today, our expert, as we like to call them, Professor Ichinose Tomonori. He's from the National University Cooperation, Miyagi University of Education. He's in the Department of Education, and he's the Executive Director of Disaster Risk Reduction Learning Institute for Educators. So he has a PhD from Tohoku University, majoring in education politics. He's been working for teacher education for 29 years, so certainly an expert here. He brings extensive experiences in the research of teaching and learning of education for sustainable development. Also education for international understanding, and of course, disaster risk reduction. It's one of those words that's hard to say early in the morning. He's been working for the education of sustainable development projects within the UNESCO, Bangkok and Jakarta, Asia Pacific Culture Center for UNESCO, and the United Nations University since the start of the UN Decade of ESD in 2005. So certainly a long track record, and thank you very much. I'll welcome you to add more on your biography as you go along, but we're really looking forward to hearing your contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your special introduction, and I appreciate this opportunity to talk about climate change education in this ESD and innovative live conversation. Can I start to talk? So I would like to share my PowerPoint presentation file. Wait a moment, please.
Okay, and then I'll just recommend that people switch off their videos just because the file might be heavy, so that we can make sure that we've got enough bandwidth. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So I start to talk, just a 30 minutes talk. So the summer season has passed, but this summer is very severe for the people in the world. This is the picture, and not my pictures. This is a picture in France, and Spain, and the Netherlands. This is a picture of the drought, and this is also a picture in the United States and Nevada. And the right side, this picture is the picture in the China. This is also, we have a drought. And as you know, in Pakistan, we have a big flood. And also this is a picture in London and Korea. They have a big rain and flood in those areas. So just this opportunity, I have a chance to talk about the climate change education. Especially, I would like to talk about what is the transformative education. And I would like to combine this topic to the disaster risk reductions. So today's question, this question is for me. I have 3 questions. So my question is, what is the climate change education? What is the learning content of the climate education, especially for the teachers and the students? And how to, for the transformative education, how to expose students to the reality and act for the climate change, and how to promote climate change education with connections of disaster risk reduction. So today we have only 30 to 40 minutes, but I would like to talk about these 3 topics. So as you know, climate change education, it was started, early started in 1992, UNFCCC Article 6, and COP20, December 2014, Article 12. This is directly connected to the climate change education, and the Doha Work Program on Article 6 of the Convention. This is this is our strong program to promote the climate change education. And also Action for the Climate Change Empowerment ACE program is also going on. Under this agreement, a famous initiative of CCE, Climate Change Education Teaching Practices, has been created locally and internationally. And this is the worldwide level of the leadership program of the climate change education. The one UN climate change learning, UNCC Learn, this is the combining the 30 national climate change learning strategies and over 25 learning actions implemented. And also UNESCO's initiative, Getting Climate Change Ready. And this was started 2017. This is 55 schools in 12 countries involved. And also OECD, he has started 2020, overall 850 teachers contributed this initiative, and this is still continued. And this is one of the typical one. And this UNCC Learn, just talking about teaching contents, learning contents of climate change education. UNCC Learn suggests the learning contents of CCE, climate change science, climate change and health, and also climate change and gender issues. So this is one of the what's a wide range of teacher learning content of climate change education. And the UNESCO Getting Climate Change Ready. This is famous for the whole school approach. A whole school approach to climate change means educational institution in action for the climate change in every aspect of school life. It includes school governance, teaching content and methodology, campus facilities management, as well as cooperation with partners. And this UNESCO Getting Climate Change Ready also suggested the learning contents of climate change in every aspect of the ordinary subject. It pointed out biodiversity, nature, energy, responsible consumption, health and well-being, later and west, transport. And this getting climate change all covered these areas. And this is one of the literature reviews. But my question is the implication of the climate change education is not so clear. We have a lot of space to discuss about the learning concepts and the topics on the school practice of climate change educations. Walter 2021 intended how to handle climate change education at university. But except to this argument and this article, there is a few arguments about the learning contents of climate change education. So therefore, I would like to clarify what is the learning content of the climate change? What is the teacher's recognition about the learning contents of climate change? So I'd like to, I asked to the in-service training teacher and pre-service teacher training teacher in Japan. I asked the 24 Japanese teachers who are participated in UNESCO climate change, Getting Climate Change Ready project in 2028. And also I asked the pre-service teacher in our university. So this is one of the results, but this is not so clear. So data was collected through the worksheets designed to write about the classroom activities of climate change education. I asked to the student to write about the lesson plan about the climate change educations. And this is the result of the in-service teachers' recognition of the climate change education. So from this chart, you can see that the recognition of the climate change education for the in-service teachers, saving energies, a little low waste, green plant, and learn climate change education in the subject. And this is one of the big part of their recognitions. And this is the pre-service teachers' recognition of climate change education. Same as the in-service teachers, saving energies, little low waste, learn about climate change, green plant occupied most of the part. So difference of the in-service teachers and the pre-service teachers. In-service teachers think about and to incorporate climate change education into each subject. And sometimes in-service teachers think about how to collaborate with local communities. But for the pre-service teachers, they have no idea to climate change education incorporate into ordinary subjects. And they would like to teach about climate change education here in this part. And they cannot think about how to collaborate with local communities. And here in Japan, we have a disaster affected areas, and some teachers are thinking about how to combine climate change education into disaster risk reductions. This is pre-service teachers also, not so many, but a few number of students, they can think about these disaster risks. So this is a research result. Teachers' recognitions of climate change education mainly focused on litter, and low waste, and recycle, saving energy, and green plant. And these contents almost belong to the behavioral learning. So how to act for the climate change in the short period, rather than short-term project-based learning. And the teachers' recognition of climate change, teachers in service and service is limited. It does not refer to the climate change and biodiversity, climate change and health, and climate change and gender issues. And the transformation is limited for the individual action, individual transformation, and not to think about how to transform society and local society and global society. And the pre-service teachers tend to teach what is the climate change education. And the pre-service teachers do not think about how to collaborate and engage with local communities. Only in-service teacher is able to think about the holistic, cross subject, cross holistic approach, climate change education. What do you think about this result? I would like to discuss this point later. So I think climate change education, not a single action and not a one short-term project. It should be covered as a teaching practice, covered cognitive and social, emotional, and behavioral, all these areas. So in this research, I find out this result shows that only limited in the behavioral part sometimes, and sometimes a cognitive part, and not covered all of these three areas. So I'd like to talk about the second topics, how to expose students to the reality and act for the climate change. One of the great suggestion is for the transformative climate change education from the ESD for 2030, education for sustainable development towards achieving SDGs. And they will give us great suggestions. In this document, they pointed out. So first, for the student awareness, and the second, they will understanding of the complexities of the sustainable issues. And third, they feel empathy about the issues. and they feel compassion. They have a compassion, then they will go to the empowerment. This empowerment includes individual empowerment and empowerment to the local communities and empowerment to the global society. I think this process is very important in thinking about the climate change education. So I would like to talk about our practice in my district. So this is a picture of the, in our district, we have a famous man, Kentaro Ono. He's a Japanese, but when he was in high school, he decided to immigrant to the South Pacific island, Kiribati. Have you ever heard about the Kiribati? This is one of the small island in the South Pacific area, but it is faced to submerged under the sea by the effect of the climate change. So Mr. Kentaro Ono, he was he has been stayed in Kiribati for more than 10 years, and then he went back to our city because our place was attacked by the big earthquakes and tsunami, and he went back, and then he started his activities to talking about the submerge and the crisis of the island of the Kiribati. So he went to the several schools in our district, and this is one of the emotional approach. And so they have a empathy and awareness and empathy about the reality to the reality of the South Pacific Island and feel the empathy and compassion. And another good practice in our district, this is one of the famous practice in our district. This is one of the small local town in the mountains. We have a big snow, and the junior high school student in Tadami town, they went to the seaside and they find out garbages in the seaside, and they realized how much plastic garbage they waste, and they investigate and researched where these plastic garbages comes from. And then students take actions to promote the newspaper package. How to promote, they talk to the local communities, and they teach to use this newspaper package, and also promote to use this package in the local shops. And this activity is broadcasted, and our Ministry of Environment, Minister of Environment also mentioned about these activities. And this activity is also expanded. This is one of the picture of the climate emergency declaration they have adapted. Climate change adaptation to acknowledge humanity is in a climate emergency. And they also started the activity of the pet-free Monday. It's the student action for free from pet bottles in their daily life. And this is one of the great, good example for the climate change education, because they started the awareness, and they started the research and take actions, and then their practice is advanced well. And so this activities for the first junior high school activities, and then this is senior high school activities. One of the high school in Ichinose district in Aomori. And this is one of the scientific approach. Students is tackling for the issues of marine plastic waste. A student promotes scientific research to understand the character of microplastic by the experimental study. As a result, they devised a method to detect microplastics taken into the body of plankton. And concerning about the awareness of climate change, school teachers of these representative schools mentioned that student ability to solve problems, ability to take action to create a sustainable society have been increasing. So I would like to talk again this process: awareness, understanding, empathy, compassion, and empowerment. This process is very effective to think about the climate change education. So the third, I would like to talking about how to promote climate change education with connection with disaster risk reductions. So there is a lot of literature review about the disaster risk reduction and climate change. So one of the representative one, I'm sorry. This is the IPCC first recognized in 2012 economic loss from the climate change and weather-related extreme events have increased since the second of the 20th century. And there is no longer possible to speak about disasters, development, and climate change. Either adaptation or mitigation in isolation of each other. So we should combine this disaster risks and climate change. So why? So I talk about this disaster risks because our district was deeply affected by the natural disasters in 2011. As you know, our district was attacked by huge earthquakes and tsunami. Of course, earthquakes is not linked to the climate change, but we have experience of the disasters, and our district is also, as you know, we have a radiation contamination issues of Fukushima, a nuclear power plant. So this is a textbook of the primary schools. Japan in our country is always attacked by the natural disasters. It contains a lot of elements of the natural disasters. This is one of the elementary school, fifth grade elementary school textbooks. It contains about our areas, earthquakes and tsunami, and also talking about the landslide. And local folk tales how to protect themselves from the natural disasters. So for how to combine disaster risks and climate change, we collaborate with Ministry of Land, Infrastructures, Transport, and Tourism. This name is very long. Collaborate and developed our materials. This is the materials how to evacuate from the disaster of the typhoon. So how to know much about the mechanism of the landslide and thinking about the climate change. So this is one of the local practice that we have a network of the Asian Pacific teacher education for climate change education, collaboration with Asian countries. And this is the initiative of the Okayama universities that we're or participate this network and talking about the discussing about the how to collaborate, combine disaster risks and climate education. And in these networks, these countries and higher education institutions all participate in these networks. And I would like to send you a present. And this is one of our achievement, promoting climate change education, collaboration with Asian countries. Later, I will on this chat, I will send this PDF files to you. And then one of the representative practice is the Philippines. In Philippines, they have attacked several times the big typhoons, and a lot of lessons from these experiences. So I have not enough time to show these videos, but I would like to briefly introduce videos of Amore Torres, Vice President of the Capital University in Mindanao, Philippines. So I would like to transfer my slide to her videos. Wait a moment, please.
Hello, greetings. Greetings to all of you. My name is Amor de Torres, and I'm a professor at Capital University here in Cagayan de Oro City, Philippines, Mindanao. What are the objectives of this module? It has three: disasters and environment with real-life applications in their chosen fields of studies or expertise. However, in the early 2020s, we realized that the modules prepared were not sufficient, and we came up with a new one that includes climate change education. And here is the module that we have prepared, entitled Climate Change, Disasters, and Education for Sustainable Development. This is a module for teachers. Well, we start with the authors. I am the lead person with Ms. Lilian de la Peña, Mr. Ferdinand Cabigin, Dr. Ryan Glenn Narvasa, and Ms. Applecate Unson. We are from Capital University. What are the objectives of this module? It has three. First, to understand multidisciplinary issues related to environment, society, economy, well-being, that are all associated with climate change, disasters, and ESD. Objective number 2, facilitate school-wide disaster preparedness education program. Well, we had a model using MOVE Philippines Disaster Preparedness Education Model. Objective number 3, design contextualized community action learning activities that promote knowledge, practices, values, skills, issues, motivation, and commitments on ESD, disaster readiness, climate change adaptation, and climate change mitigation. What are the module titles and parts? The first one is called Disaster Readiness and Risk Reduction. Module 1 is the science of typhoon or cyclones or hurricanes, its development and effects, the scientific background if I may say, theoretical background is very important for the teachers to know, because this is going to be for the teachers, by the way. When we talk of climate change adaptation and mitigation, we had module 2, which I said focused on Philippines game-based disaster preparedness education. On the third module, we have climate change action. It is a creative action on climate change, and this has 3 sessions. The module 1, the science of typhoons, cyclones, hurricanes, its development and effects. Well, we normally start with what we call buy-in, getting them interested into climate change, sea surface temperature or SST, and the typhoon. And the domain is to facilitate learning. We thought that's important for the teachers to know. The next one is session 2 on the same module, inquiry. This is tracking tropical storm Haiyan, locally known as Yolanda, and to us this is the worst ever storm that ravaged the Philippines. The domain is continue to learn and create. So this particular module made the teachers, for in this case our team that we are training, to look deeper into how to track the typhoon. Still on the same module, session 3 is culminating activity. We will have family simulated response for impending typhoon. And normally since then, since 2011, we would have national television information on getting ready for a typhoon and similar preparations. The domain is connect, collaborate, and engage. Let's move to module 2, which I said is MOVE Philippines. This is a game-based disaster preparedness. MOVE doesn't is an acronym. It's just that we have to move. So again, to encourage the teachers, we will be playing some of these games related to disaster preparedness. The domain is facilitate learning. The second session for module 2 is in the form of inquiry. We thought that children and students become co-creators of disaster preparedness education materials, because we found out, especially after Sandong, that the children, they were left at home because parents are working, took over their younger siblings, and sometimes their sick grandparents or old grandparents to escape the fury of the flood waters. And so we focused on them. The domain is continue to learn and create. The third session on the same module is field testing of co-created disaster preparedness education materials. We look forward that the children have become imaginative, creative, and they will be able to tell us and tell their companions at home, this is where we should go because the flood is getting higher, the water is rising, maybe we go up if there is a higher floor level in their house, or if there is none, to listen to the rising flood water and find out if it is better to stay inside or to go out and seek refuge outside. For module 3, we call it creative action. Session 1 again is environmental activism. You see, the Philippines is an archipelago of about 700 islands, and each island has a peculiar way of dealing with the typhoons, with the floods, and with the earthquake, etc., etc. So, like a friend said, If you have a volcano in your background, that would be very different preparation, because as you look at the volcanic eruption, that would mean I have to do something. And for one who doesn't have a volcano in his or her backyard rather, then the preparation would be different. Session 2, again, inquiry, reducing my carbon footprint towards sustainable living. What
this
does it
video
mean?
is quite long, so later I would like to provide these videos. So I have sent the document of our networks. You can get this document from this chat, and you can also watch this video files. And Dr. Moore, she has developed a module of the disaster risk reduction in climate change. Later, I will send this brochure to you. So Dr. Moore talking about the volcano eruption and disasters. Actually, volcano eruption does not link to the climate change, but the landslide that caused by the volcano eruption, it is connected to the climate change issues. So every natural phenomenon all are combined in one. So we would like to talking about these disasters with connections with climate change education. Thank you very much. So I talked 40 minutes. So then I would like to discuss about today's 3 points. What is the learning content of the climate change education, and what is the transformative, how to expose students to the realities and act for the climate change, and how to collaborate climate change education with connections of disaster risk reductions. This is today's 3 points. Thank you very much for listening. So can I stop talking? I'd like to discuss, to have a discussion with you.
Fantastic. Wow, what amazing work happening there. And thank you so much for your document, which you shared with us. I've already been looking through it. And introducing us to your colleague in the Philippines via the video. Yeah, very much looking forward to looking at your work in more detail and looking forward to the upcoming conversation. So we have a few comments in the chat already from Ibeduni, who has certainly, he's highlighted the really good work that you showed of the wastes research down at the sea, and he's really highlighting how important it is to look after the land, and he's said for a clean and paperless to keep people safe. So, and then another comment as well around, if I'm understanding right, but please let me know if I'm misunderstanding the quote. You can also read it in the chat. But from what I understand, it's highlighting how the point that you've been trying to make around how climate change touches on so many different elements of our curriculum. The highlight here is the biology specializations. And yeah, you've certainly shown for us how important it is in so many areas and how many different places that it can touch. Also really importantly from my side, how, you know, there's the kind of shallow places where we can touch on climate change. And you've started to bring in ways of thinking around climate change in much more depth, you know, with the transformatory approach, bringing in the effective elements. So I've appreciated that as well. There's a comment, sorry, my eyes are not that great, so I keep having to do this with my glasses, but Jenny has a comment. She's thanking us, thanking you for the presentation. And she says, I guess that with the increasing impacts of the climate crisis, climate education and disaster risk reduction will become more merged in the future. So climate education and disaster risk reduction are, she's asking if they will become more merged in the future. Don't know if you have thoughts on that.
What I think very big difference in each districts and areas, the awareness of the disaster risk and the climate change. So here and in both in Philippines and Japan, we have a lot of risks we faced every day. So in our districts, very aware of the disaster risk reductions, but in other districts, sometimes are not strongly connected with the disaster risks and climate change. So yes, in the future, it should be combined in closely connected. They both should have a closely connection, but yes, I would like to ask you how to promote this trend in our education and even teacher education.
Jenny, would you like, there's almost a question coming back at you or anybody else. I think it would be also nice for you guys just to put up your hands and speak as well. We're a small group and all over the world. It would be lovely to hear the voices from around the world. So I'm also encouraging you to speak if you would like to. In fact, you don't even need to, it's such a small group, you don't need to put up your hand, just unmute yourself and butt in. Please feel welcome. There's a thank you from Teta's iPhone. I'm not sure who that is. And Janet Snow has a question, I think. Oh, is it possible to get links and more information on the in-service teachers versus the pre-service teachers concepts highlighted in the presentation? That must have been published, or is it about to be published? She's asking about, those kind of statistics, I suppose, that you presented.
So this is a very important issue. It's my responsibility to how to teach pre-service teachers. Honestly speaking, for the pre-service teachers, teacher training, they only focusing on how to teach a subject. They have no experience of how to collaborate with local community and how to work with the local communities. So I think we need a lot of opportunity for the engagement into the society and the work for the societies. We would like to introduce a lot of chance in our teacher training programs, but still we have only focusing on for the teaching subject right now. So this is our, I'm a teacher educator. It's my responsibilities. It should be connected. And yes, actually like that. I don't know, the other teacher training institution is like that.
And has that information been published? Have you published a paper with that data that you shared with us on your presentation?
Oh, this is my individual research. I have presented international conference, but it has not published yet. So, but I would like to deliver this my PowerPoint slide, so you can utilize and please. You also asked to your student in your institution. I hope so. Yeah. Yes. Recognition of the climate change education. It's I think we should explore this point.
Yes, and it would be very nice to see your tools that you used. Your questionnaires. It would be quite nice to get a sort of comparative analysis across.
Yes,
across
good Yes,
So
it's a good
maybe
suggestion.
maybe
Yeah, yeah.
Janet will speak to the prof if you're interested in generating some more data from South Africa. There's an invitation for some collaboration.
Thank you, Ingrid. I think it's just, if I may interrupt here briefly, I just think that this is something that we haven't really, from my understanding and my knowledge, looked at from any perspective from our training, which we run within South Africa and possibly within Southern Africa, as the differences and the perceived differences from the teachers, whether they're pre-service or in-service. And it was a very interesting point to me that you had managed to identify such significant differences between the two groups. And yes, I would like to see if there's something, that we can pull out on that, whether it's something that one can put into a very large continuous research, or whether it is just at this stage anyway, an interest to notify it and to see, and possibly something that can lead later on. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet.
Maybe I could comment on that as well. Here in Switzerland, in our curriculum, in the frame of ESD, we are asked to treat several subjects. One is to talk about resources, one is to talk about or come across consumption. So these aspects of environmental education, as it was in the former times. But there is also things like north-south connections and development. You mentioned that in your talk. And another one is how do you call that? Civic education. And we realized that this part is not treated at all our students don't think about, in the frame of ESD, about civic education at all. And we then said, okay, if they don't do that, I think you started talking now or doing lessons about this the collaboration with communities. That was a result in your studies, and we here didn't go that far, but did a module or a lecture where we combined ESD together with, especially with civic education, where we start to have lessons about politics and how important politics is in the frame of ESD, and then we're continuing treating other things within ESD, and finally we are going out and see how the community has resolved problems, not by acting, bringing our students to act, but understanding how you can implement ESD solutions into your community. And that is something that has to be done by the politics, I'd say, and they have to understand how these processes are going on.
Thank you very much for your suggestion. I think this is one of the key points, how to think about the civic education. In our situation, that civic education is far away from those sustainable issues. So, but for creating sustainable society, act for the sustainability is very important, and transformation is very important. This is the issues of the civic education. That our civic education, just talking about how to go to the elections, and just talking about this in the small ranges. So it should be combined, the ESD and the civic education. Yes, how to become global citizens. Yes, we'd like to talk more about the linkage of the civic education, transformation, and sustainable development. Yes, thank you very much for
We made a lot of good experiences combining that and starting with civic education, and then when the semester goes on, we come to the other issues, and so I think our students start to learn that this has really to be combined. somehow. That was a change in the curriculum that we did here in two or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for your good practice and a good example. Yeah, we learn from, more from you. Yeah.
Right. Let me just see if there's anybody else who'd like to make a comment. I think I've captured all the chats. Ibiduni says it's a new innovation, educational and agricultural benchmark. Yeah, so just highlighting the ongoing challenges and the fact that it is a new space where we're actually having to invent ourselves from day to day, I think. So yes, new space, a creative space, a critical space. So thank you for that comment. All right, let's see. We have no more questions, but we really are looking forward to, I think, we'll be uploading, I hope perhaps you and I can speak afterwards, Prof, about just uploading your material onto our course networking site so that people can access them again at a later stage, and especially that video, which would be nice to see. And yeah, it looks like there's no more questions. Susan has a question or a point. Thank you for the presentation. Lots to think about in terms of how we bring in disaster risk education, and especially as South Africa is having increased floods and droughts. So yes, starting to feel it here in South Africa. You've really highlighted for us some important work that we need to do and think about. Right. Ibiduni commenting on Generation Z. I don't know if you want to comment more on our younger generation. All right. So thank you very much.
Maybe I could come in here and share one thought. I realized that for our students, it's quite a challenge to think about the future and face that, thinking about how transformation should be done, because they are in an age where they don't have a lot of changes that they already have observed. They're grown up in this situation that are ongoing. And so in my view, the perspective of our students here in Switzerland is rather to keep on going and to transmit that what they have experienced in the last few years to their new students. And they don't think really that it's their option or they need to change something about it. They rather would like to transmit that all that what they have learned in the last few years in their own education. So that's a huge challenge about transformative learning, as we as experts know this has to be done, but the younger ones, they are not in this situation that they are facing, that they don't know a world without climate change, for instance, as we older ones may have experienced it when we have been young lots of years ago, isn't it?
It's true. It's true. So that kind of importance of transformation is, the graph is just going, it's just going up, becoming more and more critical. And yeah, so we need a new generation, a generation that's able to respond to constant change, uncertainty. Yeah, the importance of creativity and critical thinking really comes through for me. Yes. Thank you.
I think a scientific solution in the social transformation is the key to, yes, create a sustainable society. Some students are very pessimistic about the futures, but the others, they can find out the solutions in the scientific approaches or social transformations. So we are trainer, we are teachers, how to motivate them for the optimistic, they can create sustainable futures. How to promote them is a very important. How to motivate them is one of the key points, I think.
Yeah, and the idea to bring them out as you are doing it and sharing ideas how you can go into the community. That was a great part, and it's a great job what you are doing in Japan. That's in my view.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we've got more thanks in the chats. Thanks from Naoko, and Jenny's pointing us to the latest IPCC report, talking about indigenous traditional knowledges and the importance to looking to those. Very, very important point, Jenny. Not to lose all that critical knowledge and experience in the world, not only looking forward, but also looking to the wealth of experience. Perhaps you'd like to comment on that, Prof?
I think yes, so those are traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge is really important. Our textbook also incorporates this, national textbook also incorporates this traditional knowledge, especially talking about the disasters. These are indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge take an important part, I think. So I would like to provide the three materials. One is our brochures of the Asian Pacific regions and a module of the disaster risk and climate change developed by the Philippine University, and my PowerPoint and the videos of the Dr. Professor Moore. I sent it to the Rosalind and upload it to this ESB innovative website. Yes, later.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you. All right. I think that's, I think everybody who's wanting to say something has said something. I think it's just up to me now just to give you a very, very warm greetings here from South Africa, and on behalf of everybody else from all over the world. We've had haven't really done a little bit of a check, but I think we've certainly got Africa well represented here, and Asia Pacific and Europe. I think the Americans are fast asleep, but not sure where Jenny's from, but oh, and Faye, of course. No, the Americans have probably in the middle of the night there. So yes, very well represented. So it's 3 a.m. in the USA. Wow.
I'm sorry.
So thank you very much to our USA colleagues who've joined. And thank you, Prof. Fantastic materials, fantastic work happening there. Really valuable. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing more. So oh, and Anthony's also joining from America, 2 a.m. Wow. Okay, that's real dedication. So you can see that your work is very exciting for us all over the world, that people have joined at these crazy times. Okay, lots of thanks coming through. So yes, thank you. Looking forward to chatting more, sharing more about climate change education in the future. Thank you, everybody.